Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the L1 show where we share links with friends. Today we're doing government and social links. And I also realized this past week that I forgot to remind everybody that it was Mother's Day. So,
Well, it's too late.
yeah, it's too late now because we're recording this on a Friday before Mother's Day. Usually I'm good about reminding the audience. Sorry.
What'd you go for Mother's Day?
I'm just going to visit. We're going to go plant flowers. That's what we do every year.
Yeah. My mom has the misfortune of her birthday being very close. So it's like, yeah, we already did that. I'm just going to do the phone call.
No, I have to drive home.
Plus, there's so much stuff in that house. Like, I can't, in good conscience, put any more garbage in that home.
You gotta go spend time. That's how you put it to your mom.
All right, government. We had some interesting things happening this week. Here is a terrifying one because if you recall, when they tried to do the other version of this with the Scary Poppins, remember her?
Scary Poppins.
She's now suing Fox News.
Oh, no.
Because she didn't like how they talked about her. And everybody got all up in arms and they're like, no, we don't need disinformation. Well, this is crazy. It's obvious what you're doing here. Well, it turns out in secret, without telling anybody, maybe that was just to head us off, they were doing a similar thing in parallel.
The government created a new disinformation office to oversee all the other ones. The Foreign Malign Influence Center oversees efforts that span U.S. military, law enforcement, intelligence, and diplomatic agencies. You should read this. It's about what you think it is, but how do we get ourselves into a position where the government thinks that the average citizenry needs this, or even the majority of you think that we need this, when really the solution here is just critical thinking? How do we encourage people to have critical thinking and reasoning skills?
The answer to your question, not how we fix people, but why is this a thing, is Russia, Russia, Russia.
Which we should be saying AI, AI, AI.
I feel like we could be able to do a funny video that's like the introduction to the Brady Bunch, and it's just some hilarious set of lyrics about Russia, Russia, Russia.
The Shady Bunch. We certainly have enough government officials to fill in that grid.
I was imagining more of like government agencies, but like the more comical part was just more and more until the screen's like each one's like really, really tiny.
Somebody made a great infographic about like the fact checking and information czars and stuff, and they like how they're all grouped together. Remember the one where it's like Unilever owns 10 million? Like they made a chart like that. It was really good.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen the Unilever chart, you really got to check that out. It is impressive.
Good luck trying to find shampoo that's not owned by Unilever.
Well, not just that, but also like the influence that those companies have on media. It's totally been the case in the past that multiple media agencies have been, working against each other to really just dust up noise, so that the signal to noise ratio for us down here on the bottom, we have no idea what's going on. And that was the point.
Sad. And they do give us little kernels to let us know that they're doing the right thing. They're protecting us. And I guess this is a good thing. However, this does point out, remember we were talking about those secret rules in the domain registrars where any country can seize one just because they say it's bad.
Yeah.
We always wondered, like, how do they do this? Who writes the warrant for this? Well, it turns out you don't have to.
Fed sees 13 more DDoS-for-hire platforms and ongoing internal crackdown. The DDoS whack-a-mole game is going to be law enforcement and blah, blah, blah. This article talks about the specific domains, but also the last time we talked about this, some of the sentences have been handed down. Some people got 6 months, some people got 6 years.
But some of these domains were the same ones from the previous 45 domains that they shut down, which means they didn't shut them down.
Yeah.
They just changed domains. And in some cases, it's just a different top-level domain. So
shut StornatorCrusher5.com was replaced with ShutStornatorCrusher5.io.
Instead of taking the head off of the snake, it seems like we just scraped some scales off of the snake.
But someone gets to make one of these amazing websites every time.
How do you rate this one?
I don't like this one as well as some of the others we've seen, but I do appreciate the cool 90s graphic with the alert sign in the background. Yeah.
Lets, power off.
Yeah.
I guess that's maybe an agency name or organization name. And, well, here we go, right? Russia, Russia, Russia. They keep telling us that on one hand, Russia is feeble and will be destroyed as long as we put enough money into it. But on the other hand, they are gods of hacking and we have to be constantly alert.
The FBI says that it has sabotaged hacking tool created by elite Russian spies. And there's a lot of really interesting tidbits in here, but it's kind of light on technical details. They haven't really specified how, other than it was some kind of a man-in-the-middle attack against their infrastructure. But I'm wondering, the timing of this is a little suspicious with the MSI root keys thing that we'll cover more in the business section. And I wonder if those are connected. Because if these guys got access to those root signing keys, which are really historically not all that secure anyway, if that was like, well, even if we cut them off, the keys are still out there. We should publicly disclose that the keys are out. But I have nothing that connects A to B. It's weird, though. The timing is weird, and there's a couple things that are weird. Maybe just coincidence. I don't know.
Well, as Krista alluded to, maybe the bigger threat here is actually not other nation states, but the robots that are growing right here on our own lawn. And what are we going to do about it? I don't know, but the FTC has a press release.
The luring test, which is kind of a funny joke. AI and the engineering of consumer trust. The joke being the Turing test. But this is the luring test, as in luring customers in with AI that's smarter than the customer, which eventually will happen for us all.
So they are focusing on advertising here, and the fact that if TikTok can do what it's doing to us, imagine what a language model can do once it's been trained on us specifically.
Yeah, but can't we go all the way back to Bernays with this?
It's just going to get worse. Like,
well-
the advertising is going to get worse.
If you think about Bernays, he was probably a pretty smart guy, right? But what really enabled him was his uncle figuring out some basic psychology. And he was like, oh, I can turn that toward advertising. So this is just sort of a modern version of that, right? Amazing new technology for manipulating human minds and apply that to advertising. What could go wrong? I mean,
I hate the future.
the only thing that happened from, like, the worst thing that happened from Bernays was like the tobacco and pharma industry, right? Nothing bad there. And the White House is interestingly released this. And
What year is it?
they released this, and they released dire warnings about the debt ceiling the same day they released it. They're giving $1 billion of our dollars to Ukraine. I see a conflict.
That's only one day of interest.
The interest is now $1 trillion a year. $1 trillion.
White House proposes a 30% tax on electricity used for crypto mining, and the excise tax will be phased in over 3 years.
Now, this is not for your home rig. I don't know how feasible those are anymore. You have to register in a lot of places to be a crypto miner, and you got to get on the power company and everything. So that's for those people.
Yeah, a lot of places the power company requests that you wind down your mining when there's demand on the grid, which is not unreasonable.
And Z Library, they are still out there, and they're still fighting the good fight, depending on which way you look at it. Some people think that they're terrorists.
US seizes Z Library login domain, but secret URLs for each user remain active.
So yeah, once again, it's easy to get your domain. They don't really have to do any paperwork.
Now, what the Z Library is a massive book piracy thingy that has PDFs of like every book ever. So I don't know. I don't know that I want to die on that hill in particular, but
They say they have 13 million. That's not even close to
yeah.
books out there. But yeah, there's definitely some copyright material.
You can Google a lot of books and just put PDF at the end and find them.
Yeah, there's
Not that I've ever done that.
A lot of publishing companies are saying that we should disable the internet for that reason.
Yeah, we're in this world where it's like literally like, no, with ChatGPT, I think that's the most scary thing about it, right? Is that book companies and other people who just have knowledge are like, no. No one gets to look at this. This is valuable now. You will pay us for this. And so like, what happens to the internet,
It's like, do I really need Bob Vila's This Old House to learn how to remake the side lights on my house? Or can I just ask ChatGPT? It's like, I need you to give me step-by-step instructions for cutting oak in order to make side lights. And it's like, here you go.
Yeah, go ahead and trust that.
Yeah, seriously. Like with gardening stuff, it is garbage.
Stick your hand directly into the thing. It's garbage now, but eventually it will be less garbage. Keep in mind, we're in the 1960s of computing, and we're rapidly advancing into the 70s.
Well, the White House is not the only one going after the crypto bros. It really seems like as we edge closer to these central bank digital currencies, that the boot is being pressed hard.
New York Attorney General seeks to tighten rules on cryptocurrency. Well, that's good. They still haven't really clarified Coinbase's stuff, which is interesting. This article does not touch on that.
Yeah, but the crypto people are, they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And so we just see constant. No, that's not to say that it's not the Wild West. You'd be insane to just jump in there and not know what you're doing. But
The timing of this one is also suspect. What was it, Bittrex? Or they announced this week, and then this was like 10 minutes later. It was like, oh, got your thing.
And the Senate, at least, seems to be somewhat aware of the coming AI apocalypse. And as usual, we will get a little dog and pony show that doesn't result in much of anything other than
some really funny clips on YouTube.
It will illuminate how much our leaders understand AI.
OpenAI CEO to testify before Senate as Congress considers legislation. That's Mr. Sam Altman. He's going to testify before Congress critters. They have no idea. I mean, it's really... we're in kind of unprecedented times here with how clueless the leadership is. And they're not... they don't know what to do.
They know what to do. Just keep doing what the corporations tell them to do.
And the corporations stand to make money from AI, so they're going to do nothing.
It works great.
Well, some of the corporations will be disrupted. Some of them stand to make money, and therein is the problem.
Right, the ones that don't pay. And Coinbase might be one of the ones that suffers because they, once again, they're going after crypto and they do not like Coinbase, but it seems like maybe the lawyers got a hold of this guy and are like, please don't say those kinds of things in public.
Coinbase CEO says the SEC is on a lone crusade, but he has dialed back the suggestion that the exchange may relocate. His attorneys told him that may be construed as saying, we know we've done things that the SEC will frown on, which may include breaking the law, so we're going to get out of Dodge. It's like, no, that's not what I meant at all. I meant that you wouldn't give us any regulation, so we have to go somewhere else.
Coinbase got that letter. I don't remember what you call the letter, but it's basically telling you there's an enforcement action coming. They don't know what it is yet, but they know down the road something bad's going to happen to them.
Feels like a prophecy.
Yeah.
Like getting a prophecy from like a witch in the woods somewhere. Something bad's coming.
And China, interestingly enough, is at the forefront of regulating AI. They're kind of at the forefront of regulating everything that they don't like or that threatens their power. But it's weird to see, like do whatever you want here in business, but don't do whatever you want there in business, which it's always the mirror and everything else.
Chinese police arrest a man who allegedly used ChatGPT to spread fake news in a first-of-its-kind case. What did he do? He generated a story that 9 people had died in a train wreck and generated a bunch of different versions of that were allegedly written by a bunch of different people. But there is really not a lot of details on this. It's like, can I read a copy of the story? Are there any pictures? Where was it submitted? How does it work? No one really actually checked anything with this, as far as I can tell.
And why go to the trouble?
Yeah.
What do you gain from it?
Yeah, so I'm really suspect of this one.
Is it a competing train companies? I can't think of another reason why this would be.
Unless maybe it's highlighting like bad infrastructure. That's what it's supposed to do.
Or like, what if he was just really tired of crowded trains?
He's just trying to get a better commute. That's really like chaos mode.
And I was just saying, China, they want power. I mean, they already got the power, and they've already created laws about this kind of stuff. They are firmly in the driver's seat when it comes to their AI.
China races ahead of U.S. on AI regulation.
What a great image.
I'm disturbed that our frog doesn't have, he's all stars, no stripes.
It's like he doesn't even care about the original 13 colonies.
I kind of take issue with the headline because AI regulation, we didn't regulate. I don't know. It's just, we have all the GPUs from the cryptocurrency mining, which is largely the same thing. We're just doing lots of math. And here's AI, which is software, which is also doing lots of math. We didn't regulate it when it was doing really disruptive financial things. Why would we disrupt it? Why would we regulate it when it's doing, I don't know. Doesn't make sense.
Because normal people don't have enough money to use it in that situation.
Well, that's the quiet part out loud then type thing, isn't it?
They're not being so quiet anymore. Singapore, they've got some serious crime penalties. You mess around with drugs in Singapore, you're going to have a real bad time. And now they are getting into the China, like, we control everything online game.
Singapore plans extensive law versus online crime. So this is like the Great Firewall on steroids?
Online criminal harms bill. And this has more to do with app stores right now. They already have the online content law from before. But this is all about, hey, if we don't like an app that's in the app store and we come to the big tech company, you must remove it.
Is it going to do an end run around end-to-end encryption? Can't have an app if it's got encryption.
Certainly would be one path to do that, wouldn't it? And Europe is doing the CSAM scanning stuff. And they tell us that it's all just for our benefit and they would never overreach with that. They're only going to be looking for certain kinds of files. Now, the problem is they actually have a pretty good framework for privacy online. And apparently the lawmakers should have reviewed that before they started work on this. How much money do you think they wasted here?
EU lawyers say that the plan to scan private messages for child abuse may be unlawful.
So many lunches paid for while they were working on this.
Oh, no. Whatever will they do?
So probably illegal to store all that information and search all of your files just hoping to catch one of those nuggets.
They don't even necessarily have to search your file. If you send a file from A to B, the ISP doesn't even have to keep the file. They can just keep a hash of the file and be like, hey, we know that you gave a file matching this hash to B. One of you is going to have to give up the file because we think it's illegal. It's pretty dark times ahead, and it's the technical infrastructure required to do that is almost zero from where we are now.
But that would also be illegal under their previous framework.
Yeah. But I think they're going to remedy that really quickly. Head-spinningly quickly.
Isn't that weird how, we praise them for coming up with these great laws? Like, wow, they're actually doing some consumer protection. And then it gets inconvenient and they're like, nah.
Yeah. It's like, we meant for this law to protect you from companies, not the government.
We're here to help. Now, they're going to help us against Apple because, as we know, they were the ones, being the EU, when I say they, that forced Apple to get rid of their proprietary charging cable and give us all USB-C. But they know Apple, and they are taking some prophylactic steps against the letter of the law versus the spirit of the law.
The EU warns Apple about limiting speeds of uncertified USB-C cables for iPhones. So the rumor had it that Apple was going to put USB-C in the new iPhones for Europe, but also make the cables really slow, because they are really slow, because Apple is that vindictive. No good technical reason. Just
well, I mean, also a controller that would identify Apple cables.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the cable's slow, but you could buy the special Apple cable, and the only thing making it special is that it's got the key in it to unlock the actual performance. I bet there's a group at Apple. It's like, what are we going to do now? We've been working on this for 3 months.
Oh no, AI is going to take our job. We're going to be fired.
And the US and the EU, as we say, EU has better online protections. I think that's objective, right?
Yeah.
And the problem is we still like to trade data on a government level and on a commercial level. So how do we reconcile that?
EU lawmakers want more talks to strengthen proposed US data transfer pact.
They don't have a lot of firm details here, but basically the EU is saying, yeah, you're not really in compliance. No matter what we do here, you're not going to be in compliance. So maybe we have to make more of those carve outs. Maybe we have to change some of these rules.
Because we really, really still want to be able to do the whole Five Eyes surveillance thing. So we want you to have our data so we can ask you if there's things in the data that we're not allowed to look for. But it's really hard for you to get the data in the first place without breaking the law, and we're supposed to report that. Oh no. Yeah, how convoluted is a situation that's like that? I mean, come on.
And they are also getting ahead of the AI situation, at least more than we are.
EU lawmakers committees agree on tougher draft AI rules.
Look at the picture on this article.
Unlike US regulation, this is more like regulation to prevent people from building something actually kind of evil, like a bot that calls old people and convinces them to sell their house or something.
Bot pictured in this article. It's just a Barbie doll that's spray painted silver.
But we saw a Barbie doll last week too. Why is Barbie
the image of AI? I'm not sure.
It's
sexist, if you ask me.
I get the impression this is from that really ancient movie about robots. Metro? No.
You think they would have a keyboard like that in that movie?
Metropolis. Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe that's just
A
the easiest
backlit
way to
keyboard?
visualize it. Yeah.
Wasn't that movie in the 70s?
No, it was like the 60s or 50s.
I don't think they had backlit keyboard.
No, they didn't. They didn't have function rows in the 60s. I mean, come on.
And Google is perhaps running afoul of those online protection laws that we talked about with Google. And I started reading this and I was like, well, that's what you get for applying to Google. No, not necessarily.
Yeah. Exclusive. Google accused of breaking European privacy law by holding personal data of potential job candidates for years. So if they're just trawling LinkedIn and they think you might fit a Google job, you're in the system.
Some of the data was from 2011.
We get paywall. But
Yeah.
So there was a guy who worked for a third-party company, and his job was to troll through LinkedIn. He's like, hey, I bet this person would be a good fit at Google, and then go and put that into the Google Headhunter list. And as he was putting data in, he could see the data that was already in there, and he was like, oh, 2011.
Yeah.
So he immediately went into whistleblower status, and he got him.
There've been times in the past where once or twice I was searching for something really esoteric, and like the Google search thing was like, it did something weird and was like, hey, you're searching for really, bleeding edge stuff. Would you like a job at Google? Here's where you apply. I thought that was weird.
You've shown the story.
Oh,
Spoiler. Yeah.
the rule is like a reasonable time to work through the employment process, but these people didn't even apply.
Yeah.
So what would be a reasonable time?
I'm sure that the Google profiles that they tried direct recruiting onto are in there somewhere as well. It's like, oh, we tried to advertise through their own Google account from search because someone is searching for this thing that we need to hire people to do.
Also, wild how they are clearly still working to hire while they're purging. So it's not that they don't have enough people. It's just that they want very specific people, probably in AI.
That's just the machine that they built. It's like, we're so used to hiring constantly. We haven't turned that machine off yet.
Well, I think they're going to look at it now. It's going to get some attention. And yes, the UK versus Microsoft. They just keep, I think somebody must have like made somebody mad, right?
It does feel a little like vindictive, but I kind of appreciate it.
Feels kind of personal. I don't think it's bad for the world.
UK restricts Microsoft and Activision from buying interest in each other. Meanwhile, this article fails to mention that the EU is probably going to clear the deal.
Did we have a story for that this week? Did we include that? I don't remember.
It's not finalized.
I remember reading that story.
It's not finalized.
There was a rumor, though, that the EU was probably going to be like, yeah, that's fine.
Meanwhile, the UK is like, nah, if we're going to suffer, you have to suffer too. Have you seen Brexit? Everyone must suffer at least this month.
Well, to be fair, does anyone want this? Does anyone have to use a Microsoft account to log in to play Overwatch?
Oh yeah, I'm still getting emails that I need to migrate my my Minecraft account. I really need to do that.
And Clearview, remember them? Remember when they were the tip of the AI iceberg?
This is a story that could have been 2 sentences.
Not anymore, but Clearview, if you don't remember them, they were a facial recognition company, and they trained their model on all of our pictures, whatever they could find online. And that's not legal. And they were told that, and they continue to do it.
Clearview fined again in France for failing to comply with privacy orders. They literally did nothing, and so France has fined them again. And that's the whole story.
Well, there's an update from Clearview saying we don't operate in France. Yeah. In other words, go pack sand. We don't care. Guess they won't be taking any French vacations.
But if you are French and you vacation somewhere else, the Clearview thing will absolutely recognize you. Is that a crime against humanity?
How many? If we're going to start enforcing crimes against humanity, it's going to take us years to just work through the backlog.
Zuckerberg alone is going to take 8 years.
Yeah. The metaverse. Oh. Anybody who's ever touched the metaverse.
Oh, I love, we have a metaverse story later. That's really funny.
And, we've talked about a future where deep fakes and language models and everything comes together, and it's just the end of trust. We don't know what's real and what's not, and we can't trust anything. And it hasn't happened here yet, as far as we know, but it seems to be happening anywhere there's an election.
Turkish president candidate has quit the race after the release of an alleged sex tape.
So he claims it couldn't possibly be him because the words. He acted like, well, maybe there could be a tape, but the words that are on this tape, I would have never said those words. So like, I would have a memory of that if that happened. But he still dropped out. I don't think he had any chance of winning. So he might just be tired of taking a beating.
Yeah, but it's weird now because normally I'd be like a world leader leaking, like I would absolutely believe that. But it's like, well, maybe it's just someone generating one.
Well, he claims that he found the source material because, like it's, there's a real adult film there somewhere and then they paste your, so he claims it was an Israeli film and he's located it and he can prove it, but
who knows? Yeah.
Doesn't matter now, I guess. And this is amazing. I saw this headline and I was like, no, that's
absolutely not.
What? And then there's a big caveat that they're leaving out of this headline, Reuters.
Metaverse could contribute up to 2.4% of the US GDP by 2035, study shows.
Who paid for that study?
Facebook.
Meta, yeah. So Meta hired somebody to do a study and they were like, yeah, Mark, you're right. It will be huge.
What's funny is that they paid for that and it's still 2%. That's like, well,
2% of GDP.
I know it's a lot, but still,
it's a massive. Our interest is $1 trillion.
The metaverse is never happening. Stop trying to make it happen.
I'm never going to be able to sell enough KVMs to pay for my part of that.
And
store.level1text.com.
Mark probably won't either because here's the big problem. He has a very, very popular service. He has several of them. But the biggest one has an attrition issue known as death.
Facebook has 3 billion users. Many of them are old because there are a lot better alternatives now to do the things that you want to do. And if you're old, you don't want to bother learning them. So you're stuck with Facebook.
I don't understand why Facebook doesn't just push Marketplace. Like, that's the only reason to log into Facebook is to look at all the old junk on Marketplace.
So one of the quotes that stood out to me here, and this, like, I know I'm not hip. I know I'm not with it with the kids, and I'm happy about that. But Krista, you're a little closer to them. How do you pronounce it, and what is
Chugi. So Chugi is like, it's like another word for basic. Like you're a basic. I can't say it because we'll get demonetized, but
so
Chugi.
They interviewed
usually to like white women in particular, like live, laugh, love. That's Chugi. Yeah.
I wonder if that's demonetization. Is that a slur?
It'll
Not
be like
really.
some of our old
wouldn't
videos
think.
where it's like we have gotten the ding on really old videos because something that was okay was now not okay.
But they won't tell you what it is, so good luck trying to edit it out.
Yeah.
But they like polled some young people, and that girl in particular was like, I do use Instagram. And they're like, oh, that's Meta. So she said she checked Instagram 4 to 8 times a day versus the 2 hours of TikTok. And this is, oh my God, Christina Criddle. Less verbosity, please. My God.
It was a long article.
This was a ridiculously long article to say almost nothing that we didn't already know, which is that TikTok spies.
TikTok spotted me. Why? Financial Times journalist writes about discovering that she'd been surveilled by TikTok, but it wasn't her. It was her pet. And
Well, it was her pet's account,
it was her pet's account.
but they knew it was tied to her.
Yeah.
Right. They were going after a journalist.
Yeah. So, and this was interesting. You think they went after the journalist because they thought that she was smart enough to not have an account for herself, which made her a more interesting target?
No, it's because she wrote an article and
Yeah.
interviewed people about like anti-TikTok stuff.
She was insanely critical of them. And so they singled her out, but then somebody inside TikTok contacted her, let her know. And then she went to the authorities and they're like, oh yeah.
Oh, absolutely. We know all about that. Yeah.
You are absolutely being tracked by TikTok. She was shocked and outraged by it, but even the little bit we say about TikTok, like, well, I don't use it, but I wouldn't be shocked if they were like, we need to get that.
Yeah.
I mean, we probably don't have a big enough footprint.
They're like, ooh, they're so chuggy. They're not cool with the kids.
We got to try to put that in one of the titles.
Yeah.
There's an update to this.
There is, yeah. I thought about this, but it was literally like an hour before we started recording that we learned.
Knock, knock. Who is it? Elon Musk says that he has chosen the new Twitter CEO and will step down within a week. Will we see black smoke coming out of the chimney on the Twitter building?
We know who it is. It was announced literally right before we started recording.
The Twitter offices he hasn't paid the rent on.
Gotta be blue smoke, right?
Or blue smoke.
Yeah. Pale blue, Twitter blue.
We should ask AI to make that thumbnail for this week. That would be amazing. Elon Musk names NBCU ad exec Linda Yaccarino.
Yaccarino?
Yaccarino? New Twitter CEO. All right.
So what do we know about Miss Yaccarino? Well, I mean, if Twitter is supposed to be the new alternative to the legacy media, right? That's what Musk has been trying to sell us. Like, there's rampant censorship and all that over here, but here's free speech. So now we've put someone from the rampant censorship place in charge.
Oh, it's NBC Universal. They were always one of the champions of right and freedom.
She's also on several boards on the World Economic Forum.
Huh, it's weird. That seems like a revolving door.
I wonder why he's doing this. Very curious.
He promised he would, I think, as a way to like stop the bleeding on the stock price.
Isn't he still CTO?
Maybe.
I think that's what I mean. But that could be a developing story as of the recording. So
he'll still have a hand because he loves Twitter.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
He's constantly,
he can't keep his fingers out of that pie.
And
his fingers are sticky.
It'll be
dirty.
interesting to see if they bump heads immediately. Right?
Yeah.
Because she's gonna land on the censorship side. You know she is. And censorship is something that this man is trying to tell us that he is no longer going to be a part of. He did a little 2-minute video talking about the legacy media and the news and how it's all fabricated, which I certainly believe. But he kind of ignored the fact that he was a part of it for decades.
Yeah. Tucker Carlson announced his plans to relaunch his show on Twitter.
Because that's where you put long form media.
He's
Twitter.
He is not a journalist.
I mean, he's a journalist as much as anybody at the Washington Post. But yeah, he basically admits that he told us what they told him to tell us. And we know from the court case that he did not like Donald Trump and did not like the whole January. I'm not going to say that.
It's too late. It's already out there
Well,
now.
I didn't say the day. So maybe, I mean, can you just still say that month?
No, I don't think so.
Who knows? We'll be demonetized, but it'll be something completely unrelated.
And this appears to be a very, very small tentative toe in the water. But I can't imagine that they don't take the plunge probably in the year, within the year.
YouTube has started blocking ad blockers. Latest experiment detects ad blockers and offers YouTube Red.
Someone posted this. I think I saw it on Reddit at first, and then it got picked up by media. But apparently, people got emails about this.
Store.level1text.com.
Patreon, Floatplane, please.
How does that help you with this?
Because you can get our stuff without ads.
Yeah, some of the podcasts and stuff. You can get the audio file.
Not at the store.
No, but Patreon, Floatplane, you can.
Yeah, Patreon, Flipplane.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you can get some fine quality t-shirts and other products on the store.
Oh, yeah.
You won't be able to download any of our media. But you can get it on Patreon Flipplane. And this is an interesting thing. I feel like, how many stories have we done about studies saying this?
Literally thousands. Is anyone surprised by that?
And do we need to keep reaffirming this? I think we know.
Major psychologist group warns of social media's potential harm to kids.
I assume this is maybe important if you're like in the psychology field and you want like a source to back you up. But
I think it's interesting that kids apparently have some sort of genetic programming to not listen to their parents. Like we've evolved some sort of defense mechanism so that knows that sometimes you can get into a bubble, a reality distortion field from your parents. And so you value the opinions of your peers more than your parents.
Well, it's because you're branching out. Like,
yeah, it's more basic than that. Like, there's a point with kittens where the mom's just like, all right, I'm done with you. And that's
so like parenting.
That's a natural thing.
Because you need them to be able to take care of themselves because the parent's not always going to be around.
The birds literally just throw them out of the nest. It's like at the
fledgling,
it's time. That's the teenage angst. We probably let that go way too long.
Yeah. But feeding the angst for the algorithm, that's not great.
The terrifying thing about this, though, if you read this, is that the commentators, the psychologists that they had here, were all like, oh, no, a parent would never be able to deal with this. you must have psychology. Like, oh, you're going to try to police your kids on social media? Don't even try. You're too stupid.
It's not like that. We've been doing fine for millennia before all of this.
Yeah, just, don't let them do it. Don't buy them the devices. Deal with their attitude about it.
I'm curious. I don't know how many people in our audience have children or children who are old enough to start using social media. I'd like to know how you guys handle that because
Yeah, engagement challenge. What do you do?
the best parent are the people who don't have kids, and none of us have kids. So if you are a parent, please chime in if you feel comfortable doing so.
I imagine you would have a lot of resistance from your kid if they're the only one without a smartphone.
Yes, it's difficult because you want them to, like, I enjoyed socializing on the internet when I was younger, but like I did have limits. I wasn't allowed to just have it on me all the time. I didn't have a phone.
And
We had a desktop PC in our like living room where my mom could see what I was doing, and I wasn't allowed to be on it all day.
And they also point out, it's like, well, another big problem here is that kids are so much more advanced than their parents when it comes to all this stuff. Well, guess what? When you had that kid, you took on the responsibility to learn what they learn so that you can guide them. Don't leave it up to the Department of Education.
Just because you've got old brain doesn't mean it's read only.
It's a ride every now and then.
Some people have quite a few bad sectors.
Anyway, we'll see you guys for other episodes.
Tomorrow.
Yeah.